Welcome back. You're watching the Israel Mobile Summit. To wrap up the first part of day two, we have with us Shaul Olmert, founder of Piggy, the new mobile app startup, who will talk on adapting strategy to the market. Shaul also founded PlayBuzz and was VP of Digital Products at MTV. So he knows a thing or two. Shaul, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. I hope everyone can see me and hear me well enough. And I'm here to tell you a little about the experience I've had in different, don't let my good looks fool you. I'm a pretty old guy. And throughout my career, I've witnessed several twists and turns in the market and different eras in which the industry changed completely and required companies, be it startups or enterprises, to completely readjust their strategies in order to adapt to those new realities. So I'll quickly walk you through the experience and kind of my professional life story, and go over the different points in which we had to make adjustments, which I feel is very relevant for today's rapidly growing and evolving market. So I live in Israel. This is where I'm originally from. I was born and raised here, and then started my career by moving to New York. I moved to New York originally for grad school. I did my master's in New York University's Interactive Telecommunications program back in 2001. And after I concluded my studies, I started working. And one of the most interesting stops or points in my career at the time was when I was appointed to be a VP of Digital Products for MTV Networks. And at the time, MTV was, I guess, what TikTok and Instagram and and Spotify combined are for young generation. It was really the conglomerate of linear TV channels such as MTV, VH1, Nickelodeon, and many others that were the most popular and most profound media entities for teenagers and young adults all over the world. So it was a very satisfying and very cool job. And one of the areas where I felt we are making the biggest stride and the most impact was on mobile. And mobile at the time, we're talking about the years of 2003 to 2008, was very different than it is today. We made the majority of the income came from selling ringtones and wallpapers, primarily through partnerships with local carriers. So MTV had a network of relationships with pretty much every mobile carrier in the world. And my expertise and how I brought the most value to my organization was in structuring deals with different carriers on how to promote MTV content on the mobile decks, like you see on the screen right now, on the mobile decks of the carrier's offering. So that was the kind of how we brought MTV to be one of the most successful, if not the most successful, mobile media company at the time. And after a few years of doing that, I decided to go back to Israel. I got married and had two of my three children there in New York. And then we decided that we want to move back to Israel and live in our homeland. And in Israel, as you are all well aware, there is no MTV. So I had to think of other employment opportunities. And when I looked around me, I saw no media enterprises. What I saw was a desert with camels and a bunch of startup companies. So really my hope was that I can leverage all of my expertise and connections in everything that I learned at MTV. I was running e-commerce and games and mobile and many other areas, and bring that opportunity or leverage that experience and those connections in order to help young Israeli startup companies migrate into the US market. But little did I know, and that's where I'm getting into the sort of heart and soul of what we're talking about. While I was setting up my new home and getting over the jet lag and getting used to my new environment, the world has completely changed on me. Apparently, this guy that you see on the right side of the screen, some dude from Cupertino, California, kind of reinvented everything we knew about mobile and made most of my knowledge and most of my connections completely obsolete. So since the invention of the iPhone and then the whole wave of smartphones that followed them, all the way that business is conducted in the mobile market has changed, and even the products themselves has changed. It was no longer about ringtones and wallpapers and paid SMS services. It was really about applications, and they were not sold through the carriers that became pretty much irrelevant. So all of my network of contacts with all of the gatekeepers in all of the different carriers around the world was suddenly no longer meaningful, and everything became direct to consumer. And we had to completely adapt to a new reality. So I was advising different companies and trying to help them carry themselves in the new world. But unfortunately, no one really understood what I was talking about, because I was trying to teach them how to do business in a business environment that was no longer relevant at all. So as I said, Israel is, as we call it, the startup nation. Startups are really the main driver of the tech economy in Israel. So I decided to start my own company. And in 2012, I co-founded my first startup, a company called PlayBuzz, which I'll tell you all about. And the premise behind PlayBuzz was that we're going to create a content authoring platform that will enable media companies such as MTV and all the other companies that I worked for or worked with or collaborated with. We're going to enable them to create great magazine-like content. So, not just their average articles, but more sophisticated interactive type of content in order to attract new advertisers and gain more traction and make more money. And that was the premise. The first type of content that we enabled to create was what we call a personality quiz, which I guess you guys are all familiar with. But back then in 2012, there wasn't really a great tool for creating online personality quizzes. So we were kind of first to market in that. And again, the goal was that we're going to develop the authoring tool, and we're going to let all of the different potential clients, all of those MTVs of the world, or Huffington Post, or New York Times, or all of the other online publishers, we're going to enable them to use our authoring platform in order to create this kind of great content. And we invested everything, we invested all of the capital that we raised in creating a sales infrastructure. We hired salespeople, and I was spending most of my time on a plane, flying to New York and to Los Angeles to meet with publishers and trying to convince them to use this tool that we just started to emerge. But unfortunately, all I got was rejections. I didn't try to pitch to the president directly at the time, but most everyone else I tried to engage said no. And really the reason they said no is that, again, the market has changed. Suddenly, the value of ads, of online ads on desktop was really decreasing, and it no longer made sense for publishers to spend a lot of money and a lot of time on platforms such as PlayBuzz in order to create magazine-like content because it didn't pay off. There wasn't positive ROI because the rates of ads have significantly decreased. So we were at the end of 2003, a year and a half, probably like 18 months or so into PlayBuzz, we were already beginning to run out of money. We could already see the end coming towards us pretty quickly and pretty rapidly. And we became very concerned. And as a measure of, I would say, desperation, we decided to spend our last few dimes on onboarding a new team member, a content creator, when the hypothesis was that if we will have better demos, we'll create, rather than let others create content, we will create our own content. Maybe this will, the content will be better and will show how great of examples can be created with PlayBuzz, and that's going to put us on the map. And what happened was that this person we hired that started creating content shared it on Facebook. And then the most phenomenal thing happened to us. It began to become viral. And by becoming viral, I mean that we created a few pieces of content, we shared them on Facebook, and people saw them, they liked them, they logged into the PlayBuzz system and started creating their own content. And that's another twist in the plot that we didn't plan on, because when we started, Facebook was was beginning to be popular, but was nothing in comparison to what it is today. And nobody actually realized that content consumption will be driven primarily by shares on Facebook. So everybody tried to create their own owned and operated website, and nobody realized that the rules of the games have changed again, this time to our favor, because suddenly content that became viral on Facebook was really driving traffic. So as a result of this unexpected and unforeseen change in the market, we within a year after we launched, we became PlayBuzz.com, the website that we created again as a measure of desperation when no publisher wanted to work with us. That website became the most popular website on Facebook worldwide. In fact, we were the 18th most trafficked website in the US that year. We had more traffic than the bigger publishers like the New York Times, NBC, America Online, MTV, BuzzFeed, all of those companies that refused to work with us. Suddenly we had more traffic than they did, and we never even tried to become a publisher. It was just sort of an improvisation, kind of an afterthought, if you will. And we got to that level because, again, the rules of the market have changed, and this time we were lucky enough to ride the tide and grow with them. As a result of our popularity, all of those companies that refused to work with us in the past came back to us and figured that these guys from Israel are onto something. Evidently they're more successful than we are, so we may as well start actually taking them seriously and start working with them. And by the end of 2015, we had 16,000 publishing partners around the world. So all of the great brands you see on the screen, like Major League Baseball and USA Today and Mashable and Fortune and NBC and MTV and all of those companies that I tried to travel to and couldn't convince them to work with us, actually came to us and started deploying our system. So that, the PlayBuzz story is just a great realization of how market changes can work both ways. They just create new realities, and if you are either smart enough or, in our case, lucky enough to adapt to them, you can really make a killing. And one of those publishers that we worked with was Disney. And I guess it was in 2016, Disney became a major shareholder in PlayBuzz. They acquired a significant part of the company. And we became part of the Disney network. I stayed on board for a couple more years as a CEO and then stepped down. And sure enough, decided to start another company. And I want to tell you very quickly the story of Piggy and how we started it and how it's adjusting to the new market climates. And I'll start with a quick little video that is really the reason we started a company. The reason I started Piggy was because my 18-year-old daughter, she was 17 at the time, it was a year ago, she came to me and said that her friend Olivia, who lives in Philadelphia, just published a TikTok movie that had, I think at the time it had something like 17 million views or something ridiculous. And I was so impressed, and I wanted to see that little TikTok movie that Olivia created. And the story behind it was that Olivia was tested by her high school teacher to write an essay about how the quarantine, how the COVID times segregation affected her mood. And instead of writing an essay, she created this little TikTok movie, 25 seconds movie that I'm going to show to you real quick right now.
Something I just want to feel. I just want to feel something. I just want to feel something really real, so that I can really feel like the person again. Stranger. So don't.
So this is Olivia's little movie, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was brilliant because it really helped her to unleash her creativity. And I thought that had she written an essay, it would probably not be as impressive, because writing essays is not the kind of language that she's used to. But when she used the kind of tool set that was native to her, she was really able to convey how smart and thoughtful and hardworking she is. So she created a little masterpiece that I wasn't the only one who liked it. It had, as I said, many millions of views. And the concept behind Piggy was to say that while the audience has changed greatly, the tools we use to create, to express ourselves, haven't changed at all. In fact, word processors look today exactly the same as they looked when I was Olivia's age. But the way we create content, or the way we think about content, and the way we like to consume content has changed drastically. Content is no longer only textual, it's now multimedia. It's meant to be consumed on a mobile phone rather than printed on paper. It's meant to convey kind of a very multi-layered experience that is using different media assets together. And this is the concept behind Piggy. So I know I'm running out of time. I'm not going to walk you through the actual examples, but just to say with Piggy, you can create school projects, or you create blog posts, or you can create anything that you want to create, and you can do it in a way that looks much more like TikTok, or much more like Instagram story. So it's easier and more intuitive for our Gen Z users to create it on the mobile phone. And it's much easier and much more fun to consume that kind of content on your mobile phone than it is to create long text documents. And our goal at Piggy is to enable the authoring and distribution of such content for any purpose. And one last note for me, and with that I'll end my talk and open up to any questions if anybody has any questions, is to say that when we started the company, the whole logic of distribution was to use paid media, was to create a cohort of paid users and use the sophisticated analytic systems that exist today in order to target users and create target audiences and market to them. But again, the rules of the games have completely changed on us, because starting the emergence of iOS 14, the previous iteration of Apple's operating system, they are now blocking or making it very difficult to track user information. So suddenly all of our hypotheses of how to approach the market and how to distribute has changed. And now we are making those adjustments on trying to figure out how to do it in this new world that has changed on us. And if hopefully we'll be as successful as I was with PlayBuzz, it will be because we learn to adapt and learn to change our plans or change our strategy in light of changing markets. So hopefully this is a lesson that served me well throughout my career. Hopefully it will serve you guys well in whatever you do. So thanks again for your time and for inviting me to speak today. And I don't know if we have any more time, but if we do, I'm happy to spend it answering any questions.
Thank you very much indeed, Shaul. Yeah, we've got about 5 minutes, and I've got a couple of questions for you. First of all, I'd like to say thank you for making me feel old by going back to your time at MTV, which I enjoyed growing up. And unfortunately, many of your users probably didn't experience it in its heyday. You've just mentioned there at the end of your talk about adapting, obviously, strategies to market changes that you've seen a fair few of. I have as well. Karen from Beach Bum earlier talked about the importance of agility and moving fast, especially in the mobile market. What advice do you have for people about what are often quite significant market trends and keeping up with them and adapting their strategies to navigate through?
I love this question because really what I'm working on right now is we created Piggy. We created the application that you can download and create your own content with it. And when we put it in the hands of consumers, especially younger consumers, we are really targeting Gen Z, so kind of high school students or college students and young adults. We are seeing that they use it in a variety of ways that we didn't exactly plan for. And our challenge right now is not to try and enforce the original concept of what we had in mind when we envisioned the application, but really trying to understand and analyze what they are using it for and how they are using it and what sort of value they see in it, and then adjust the product and the marketing and everything else accordingly. So for instance, we noticed, it was really curious, we didn't plan for it, but we saw that about 40% of the users that used Piggy used it primarily to create invitations which they then sent on to their friends. And it wasn't, we feel like there are many other tools to create invitations in, but you can't you can't argue with the numbers. We're looking at our analytics, and we see that almost 40% of them are using the application for invitations. So we decided to play ball. We created templates for invitations. We enabled a whole new set of features to make invitations creations more, more inviting, easier, and more robust. And really, this is an example of to say, I guess in today's market, you have to meet the market as early as possible and try to come as, I would say, as bare bones as possible. Try to just open up and see what your product is being used for, rather than spend a lot of time creating a product and making it very mature before it meets its audience, and we'll probably see that the audience actually wants to use it in a completely different way than you intended.
Excellent, thank you. I've got another question based around users. You've mentioned about observing them, their behavior, and adapting to that. Afir in chat has put, is Piggy mostly for young users who used mobile as their first device, or do you expect to see also people who are already hooked on Office/Word using it?
It's an important question, because I think that when you want to create something big, you want eventually everyone to adopt it. But if your primary targeted audience from the get-go is everyone, it's very hard, you're likely to hit no one. So we decided, with an eye to the future, every day, hundreds of thousands of Microsoft Office users are passing away, and hundreds of thousands of mobile users are being born. So with every day that passes, the ratio of the mobile generation of people who were born with a smartphone or who have used smartphone for as far back as they can remember is increasing in the overall population. So we decided to make that our sweet spot, to make the target audience the people who are what we call mobile natives, with the hope that even all people such as us will be able to adjust to it as well. I'm not a big TikTok user, I'm not a big Instagram user, but my habits are also evolving. Maybe not as fast as my kids' habits, but I'm also making adjustment and kind of changing my habits according to market trends. So the hope is that the sweet spot will be the early adopters of the mobile generation, and the older generations will follow. Similarly, by the way, to how Facebook and Twitter at the time, and pretty much any other big platform grew. They all started from the kind of zeitgeist of young thought innovators, thought leaders of the new generation. And then it became such a wide phenomena that everybody else adjusted to.
Thank you very much indeed, Shaul. Thank you for your time today, and thank you for participating, and best wishes with Piggy.
Thank you so much.